look at our European partners, our Asian partners.
Hello and welcome. I'm Thomas Porteous and you're watching the Africa Brief on NewsX World. Let's take a look at some of the top stories coming out of the continent this hour. Nigeria rejects US claims it violates religious freedom, calling the designation based on misinformation. The statement comes after President Donald Trump threatened to cut aid and consider military action if Christians remain unsafe in Nigeria. Satellite images indicate mass burial sites in El-Fasher as armed clashes escalate in Darfur's Kordofan region, according to human rights groups. Amnesty International urges the protection of civilians as violence surges. The World Health Organization says the viral Rift Valley fever outbreak in Mauritania and Senegal has caused 404 confirmed cases and 42 deaths between September and October. Health officials warn the dangers are heightened by rain and livestock movement. The South African government says 17 nationals were recruited under false job offers to join mercenary forces in Ukraine and are now trapped in the Donbass region. President Cyril Ramaphosa has ordered an investigation into their recruitment and promised efforts to bring them home. Uganda celebrates Zoran Mamdani's historic election as New York City mayor, marking the first Muslim and first South Asian to lead the city. Supporters call his victory a beautiful thing and a symbol of global representation. Now in Europe, Ukrainian drones strike targets across Russia, killing one person and igniting a fire near a major refinery in Volgograd. Moscow says at least 75 drones were used as Kiev intensifies attacks on Russian energy sites, while Moscow advances in eastern Ukraine. And in the Middle East, the Israeli military says Hamas has given the Red Cross remains believed to be of a deceased hostage, part of the US brokered ceasefire. If confirmed, it would leave 6 hostages remains still in Gaza after earlier returns of 21 bodies. And in East Asia, at least 140 people are dead and 127 are missing after Typhoon Kalmegi triggered catastrophic flooding across central Philippines. Officials say the storm is now moving towards Vietnam as rescue teams struggle to cut reach-off areas. The Nigerian government has rejected its designation by the United States as a country of particular concern over alleged religious freedom violations. The Nigerian government stated that the designation is based on misinformation and faulty data. President Trump has placed Nigeria on a list of countries that the United States says have violated religious freedom and has asked for the Department of Defense to prepare for a possible fast-track military action if Nigeria does not address the killing of Christians. He has also halted aid flowing from the United States to Nigeria. Defending Nigeria's record, Information Minister Mohammed Idris said President Trump's threats of military action were unwarranted and misrepresented Nigeria's complex security challenges. The Nigerian Chief of Defense Staff noted that Nigeria has faced terrorism, not persecution of Christians, and called for the US to help in the fight against Islamic insurgents. We are now joined by Osanyin Taiwo. He's a policy and strategic implementation expert. He joins us live from Abuja in Nigeria. Thank you very much for joining us, Osanyin. How credible are Donald Trump's claims here?
Thank you for having us, Thomas. It's a pleasure always having me on NewsX World. Let me break down some very certain statistics and information for the world. Firstly, Nigeria is, and as I said earlier, sometime on your channel some days back, Nigeria is a cross-cultural and religious group is a cross-cultural and ethnical population. That's the first thing. The country is made up of about 50% of the Muslims, about 45% of Christians, and less than 5% of other religion. Having stated that, it's very important that when we break this down in regions, we have more Muslims in the northern region, more Christians in the southern region of Nigeria, and a mixture of both in the north central of Nigeria. Now, where are these threats? These threats are from the northern, majorly from the northern part of Nigeria, from the northeast to the northwest, and then to the north central. When we talk about the north central, one or two states that come to the frontier are Benue and Plateau State. Benue and Plateau States are presumptuously domiciled by Christians. And this is where we have most of the killings. So this could be perceived as persecution or genocidal in a sense of it. In the north central, we have kidnappings and terrorism happening around different parts. We have the elders farmers clashes happening based on the economic and occupational conflict. We have in the northeast the same thing, and also some sort of terrorism happening and kidnapping happening. So when we narrow it down, a lot of people might say that yes, in the south, the Christians are not frightened. Christians are not threatened. Yes, that assertion may be relatively right. But on the north, on the flip side, with the northern part, and most especially in the north central area of Nigeria, that assertion may be wrong, and that might actually go down to amplify the Donald Trump's allegation of genocide, because we've seen it happening in Benue and in Plateau State, which are states that are predominantly occupied by Christians. Having said that, is it important that Donald Trump, as Nigeria needs assistance from the United States? I said it earlier,
Yes.
certainly yes. Do we need collaboration? Yes. Now, when America begins to threaten Nigeria on aid and cutting off of aid, well, it is time for Nigerians and African countries to understand that they are not puppets in the hands of the global northern countries, whereby they run out hand to mouth, getting funds or relying on so much aid from the international or the global north countries. Now, Africa is rich enough, Africa is sustainable enough, but where there's a need for necessary collaboration, then Africa can rely on the international global north countries to assist and support.
Osanyin, of course, Nigeria has only responded with words so far, responding to the claims and saying that Donald Trump, his claims are based on disinformation. Do you think Nigeria will respond further diplomatically to avoid these sanctions or loss of aid?
Surely, negotiations and conversations are ongoing right now. Just on Tuesday, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, has initiated a committee and the security chiefs to start immediate screening of ambassadors, because Nigeria did not have till now any ambassador representing the country in any part of the world, which is a very significant lacuna in international relationship with every country. So that's going on right now. Certainly, when we have ambassadors in these countries, especially the United States, there will be more of closer conversation and a broader perspective of the major issues happening in the country.
Yes, thank you very much. Do stay with us, Osanyin, as we have further updates from Africa. Satellite images analysed by researchers appear to show mass burials in El-Fasher, Sudan's Darfur region, following the Rapid Support Forces takeover of the city. The findings published by the Yale School of Public Health's Humanitarian Research Lab indicate at least 2 suspected mass grave sites, one near a mosque and another beside a former children's hospital, reportedly used as an RSF prison. The discovery adds to growing evidence of widespread violence as Sudan's 2-year civil war deepens. Local reports and the United Nations confirmed a drone strike at a funeral in El-Obeid, killing at least 40 people. Meanwhile, Amnesty International urged urgent protection for civilians in Kordofan, warning that RSF attacks are escalating in the region after the militia seized the town of Bara and besieged Kadguli. Amnesty's Secretary-General Agnes Callamard said the world must not ignore the worsening humanitarian crisis as atrocities spread beyond Darfur. Osanyin, I just want to focus on that last statement. Of course, Sudan now has been at the forefront of people's minds when it comes to African news. And of course, many people have been seeing images of these mass graves, these satellite images, because of course it is very hard to get information out of the region currently. And Amnesty International's Secretary-General Agnes Callamard, she said that the world must not ignore this worsening humanitarian crisis. How is the humanitarian crisis worsening in Sudan, and what can the world do to improve it?
It's very important to state that the Sudanese war is long overdue, and there's a need for immediate international rescue for civilians in Sudan. Allegations are rising, stating that about 460 people have been buried in mass graves. And this is no longer a conversation of should we or should we not. It's a conversation of immediate action. The United Nations must take immediate step. No matter what the Sudan, this civil war is long overdue, 2 years, and it seems like this country doesn't know what they want. I would only appeal the international organizations and other collaborative nations in the African region to swing into action for all necessary peace. We've had a lot of verbal ceasefire. We've had a lot of conversations on resolving this conflict for years. But this seems like this is unending. But killing innocent people, this is an heinous crime to humanity, and this must stop. And that is why I call on every international body that is necessary for peacekeeping to swing into action, because Sudan is becoming a menace to the African society.
What can blocks like the African Union, or organizations like the African Union or ECOWAS play in this?
Well, it's very simple. Most of the time, there's this constraint from these regional organizations, that is African Union, Sudan. But I think it is time for the African Union and the ECOWAS and other African regional organizations to come together and speak in one voice, because this is no longer a conversation of diplomatic approach. I think this has to go into a form of force. And if we remember what happened in Liberia some few years ago, when Nigeria had to swing into action, bringing in ECOMOG, and then with support from Africa countries, I think this is necessary at this point in time. But unfortunately, what we see today is that while Sudan is facing this crisis, other African countries are also facing their crisis. So it may be a bit difficult for Sudan to get a bit of resolution and a bit of immediate conflict rearrangement or conflict resolution. But having said that, this crime is no longer a thing that must be verbally resolved. It's a conversation that must be immediately resolved through either relatively use of force or the use of proper diplomatic negotiations.
Okay, Osanyin Taiwo, thank you very much for joining us here on NewsX World. Pleasure to get your insight. We now have some breaking news. and authorities in Ethiopia's Afar region says forces from the neighbouring Tigray launched new attacks, marking the latest flare-up in tensions within the country. The Afar Regional Administration accused the Tigray People's Liberation Front of crossing into Afar territory, seizing 6 villages and bombarding civilian areas with mortars and heavy artillery. The reported assault raises fears of renewed fighting between the two regions, which were major fronts during Ethiopia's 2020 to 2022 civil war that left tens of thousands dead and displaced millions. While a peace deal signed in late 2022 ended large-scale hostilities, sporadic clashes have continued in the contested border zones. We will, of course, bring you more on that once we get it. And now moving on. The World Health Organization has reported a total of 404 confirmed cases of Rift Valley fever in Mauritania and Senegal between September the 20th and September the 30th. It also stated that 42 deaths were reported during this period. Rift Valley fever is a viral zoonotic disease that has caused recurrent outbreaks in both animals and humans for decades. These outbreaks are often preceded by heavy rainfall and flooding, creating favorable conditions for disease-transmitting mosquitoes. The WHO has been working to manage the outbreak using a One Health approach, which includes measures like animal vaccination, awareness campaigns, mosquito control, and proper surveillance. The first outbreak in Mauritania was recorded in 1987, and since then the disease has recurred several times. US President Donald Trump has issued critical remarks against South Africa, saying the country should not be in the G20 grouping. The United States, under the second Trump administration, has been at loggerheads with the South African government. President Trump has earlier alleged human rights abuses in South Africa. Trump has repeatedly claimed that White House farmers in South Africa are being persecuted and killed, a charge the South African government and local courts have denied as factually inaccurate. South Africa is set to host the G20 Leaders Summit later this month in Johannesburg. The G20 compromises the world's largest economies, along with the European Union and the African Union. President Trump's remarks cast a shadow over his participation in this year's Leaders Summit. Okay, of course, President Donald Trump's altercations with the South African government continue as he makes comments saying that the upcoming November summit in Johannesburg should not be attended by the hosting nation. Donald Trump has, of course, cited a so-called white genocide in South Africa, which he has claimed for a while now. Previously, if we can remember, taking back to their meeting in the White House, ambushed the South African leader with claims of this white genocide, along with a television showing alleged graves lining the road, many of which have been disproved as factually inaccurate. But South Africa, of course, is set to host this G20 Leaders Summit later this month in Johannesburg, where the world's 20 largest economies are set to attend. And of course, these statements casted a huge doubt over whether Donald Trump will, in fact, attend the huge summit in South Africa. Okay. He's repeatedly claimed that white farmers in South Africa are being persecuted and killed, a charge the South African government and local courts and other experts and analysts have denied as factually inaccurate. Of course, President Ramaphosa, hugely against these statements by President Donald Trump. Okay, we will hopefully be bringing you a guest on this very, very soon. Okay, now let's move on. South Africa is investigating how 17 of its citizens were lured into fighting in Ukraine. The government says it received distress calls from the men who were recruited under the promise of lucrative employment contracts and are now trapped in the war-torn Donbass region. All 17 are between the ages of 20 and 39, and President Cyril Ramaphosa has ordered an official investigation into the circumstances surrounding their recruitment and deployment. South African authorities have not disclosed which side of the conflict these citizens were fighting for. Under South African law, it is illegal for citizens to provide military assistance to foreign governments or participate in foreign armies without government authorization. Earlier this year, in August, the government also warned young people to be cautious of fake job offers in Russia circulating on social media, following reports of South African women being deceived into participating in drone programs. Now, some Ugandans are elated that one of their countrymen, Zoran Mamdani, has been elected as the mayor of New York, while many drew a complete blank. Zoran Mamdani was born in Uganda's capital city of Kampala, and lived there until he was 5 before moving to South Africa. A staunch leftist, Mamdani has become the first Muslim mayor of the United States' biggest city, New York, after yesterday's elections. There has been some excitement at the El-Fasher University in the capital of Kampala, where Mamdani's father, Mahmoud Mamdani, was a senior academic until just a few years ago. Meanwhile, some people have expressed their happiness for Mamdani's victory. Let's listen in to what they have said.
Zoran's victory has motivated me as a young Ugandan because I feel more encouraged to apply for these jobs worldwide. And you know, I'm young, so I've been applying for internships and sometimes I feel very discouraged. But right now, I've been given more strength and I've been motivated to apply for even the jobs.
First of all, I didn't know about Zoran, but since he's a citizen and he was born in Uganda, and right now he's currently elected as the mayor of New York, I think it's a beautiful thing because considering the things that are happening in USA, like the racism according to the color, and then the religion, and the fact that he's a Muslim, it's an achievement, that's fine. And there's no segregation because there's nothing that was considered during his elections or during his elections. So I think it's a beautiful thing and equality was highly considered.
It actually makes me feel nice. Literally, Uganda is kind of invisible in most to the rest of the world. But seeing him up there, it makes me feel so proud of my country that despite us being this side, we have someone on top. Because New York is not an ordinary city, it's some extraordinary city, so it really makes me good, feel good. And, yeah.
Well, it puts Uganda on the world map, on the global map. Anybody who gets to know Mamdan, who was elected mayor, will probably search about him, his citizenship. He has dual citizenship. He's both a Ugandan and an American at the same time, right? Definitely, that puts Uganda on the global picture map.
We feel excited for Mr. Zora of winning the position of mayor in New York. We are so happy because we worked with his father. He was a good man in Makerere University. Yes. So we are so grateful for that. We hope everything is going to be well in New York.
And that's a wrap on the Africa Brief today. Keep watching NewsX World for more international news updates.